Liverpool's transfer plans rarely move in straight lines, but the latest developments have taken even seasoned observers by surprise. What initially appeared to be a routine piece of business has quickly gathered momentum, with new information forcing a rethink on how this deal might unfold. Behind the scenes, key decisions are being reassessed, and the situation now looks far more fluid than it did just days ago. As speculation intensifies and assumptions begin to unravel, a fresh twist has emerged that could alter Liverpool's thinking in the market. With the window reaching a crucial stage and pressure mounting to get calls right, this is one story that has suddenly become hard to ignore. Let's break this down in today's video, along with all the other Liverpool news from the last 24 hours. There is so much to discuss in today's video, so be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for daily Liverpool content. Liverpool's plans for Stefan Bajcetic have taken an unexpected turn, with a proposed loan move now shelved and fresh doubts emerging over the midfielder's short-term future. What had looked like a sensible opportunity for the 21-year-old to rebuild momentum away from Anfield has instead underlined the severity of his ongoing injury struggles, forcing the club into a far more cautious approach. Bajcetic has not played competitive football for 8 months and has been absent from Liverpool's matchday plans for almost 20 months. After undergoing hamstring surgery at the end of May, there was optimism inside the club that the procedure would finally draw a line under a frustrating spell on the sidelines. The Spaniard had even been spotted running at Kirkby earlier in the season, with hopes that he could return to contention before Christmas. Those hopes have since been dashed. A fresh setback has delayed his recovery once again, scuppering the possibility of a January loan. Girona, who currently sit mid-table in La Liga, had explored the idea of bringing Bajcetic back to Spain for the remainder of the campaign. However, according to Catalan outlet Diario Sport, the club ultimately ruled out a move after assessing his fitness situation, turning their attention instead to Inter Milan midfielder Christian Aslani. Further clarity came via The Athletic, with Greg Evans reporting that another hamstring issue has thwarted his progress, despite the May operation being viewed as a potential fresh start. The latest problem means Bajcetic is unlikely to return to full training until at least the end of the month, assuming no further complications arise. As a result, Liverpool have little choice but to keep him on Merseyside and manage his comeback internally. Any minutes he does get this season are expected to come at under 21 level, where Rob Page's side could provide a controlled environment for him to regain match sharpness. From Liverpool's perspective, the decision reflects a broader concern about protecting a player whose body has repeatedly failed him at key moments. While a loan to La Liga may have appealed on paper, the risk of another breakdown away from the club's medical staff was clearly deemed too great. The longer-term picture, however, is becoming increasingly complicated. Bajcetic burst onto the scene under Jurgen Klopp during the 2022/23 season, impressing with his tenacity, positional intelligence, and composure beyond his years. At that point, he looked like a cornerstone of Liverpool's midfield rebuild. Now, with his last start for the club coming nearly 850 days ago, there are growing fears that injuries could permanently derail a career that once promised so much. Interest from Spain has not disappeared. ESPN reported in the summer that Valencia, Real Betis, and Rayo Vallecano were all monitoring his situation with a view to a potential permanent deal down the line. For now, though, any such discussions are firmly on the back burner, with Liverpool focused on simply getting him fit again. That leaves the club facing an uncomfortable question. Patience has been a defining feature of Liverpool's handling of young talent in recent years, but there comes a point where availability becomes just as important as ability. Whether Bajcetic can ever rediscover the level he showed in early 2023 remains uncertain, and the coming months may prove decisive in determining whether his long-term future still lies at Anfield, or whether a clean break eventually becomes the most realistic outcome for all parties. In other news, Rio Ngumoha's lack of minutes has become one of the most hotly debated talking points among Liverpool supporters this season. Not because of hype alone, but because of what the teenager has already shown when given even fleeting opportunities. For a player widely regarded inside and outside the club as one of the most exciting young attackers in the Premier League, his regular place on the substitutes bench has inevitably raised questions. Arne Slot's recent comments, however, offer at least a partial insight into the thinking behind that restraint. There is little disagreement about Ngumoha's talent. His explosive acceleration, low centre of gravity, and close control make him a nightmare for defenders, and every cameo seems to reinforce the sense that Liverpool have something genuinely special on their hands. When he has been trusted in competitive minutes, he has played with fearlessness well beyond his 17 years, stretching defences and injecting urgency into games that have often needed it. That only amplifies the frustration when weeks pass without him seeing meaningful action. Slot is clearly aware of that growing discontent. The noise around Ngumoha has become impossible to ignore, and supporters have not been shy in voicing their belief that a player of his quality should be playing more regularly, particularly in a side that has at times lacked unpredictability in wide areas. It is against that backdrop that Slot appeared keen to address the situation head-on, even if his explanation does not fully satisfy everyone. Speaking ahead of Liverpool's FA Cup tie against Barnsley, Slot was asked about the fitness of another young forward, Jadon Danns. His answer quickly broadened into a wider point about the physical management of teenage players, with Ngumoha very much at the centre of it. "No, not fit enough. No, not even training," Slot said of Danns. "If I'm correct, Danns is one of the players who got a stress fracture because he was young, and, from what I've been told, was a bit overtrained. That's why we are so careful with Rio Ngumoha, that he's 2 days a week off the pitch if that's possible, to not have that same situation with him." It is a revealing admission. Slot is effectively framing Ngumoha's limited involvement as a protective measure rather than a footballing judgment. The club, having already seen one highly rated youngster suffer a stress-related injury, appears determined not to repeat the same mistake. From a long-term perspective, that caution is understandable. Liverpool view Ngumoha as a major asset for the future, and safeguarding his physical development is clearly a priority. That said, it does not entirely explain the extent of his absence from matchday action. Careful training management does not automatically preclude controlled minutes, particularly in games where Liverpool dominate possession or face lower league opposition. To many supporters, Slot's comments feel less like a complete justification and more like an attempt to calm a restless fanbase. The upcoming FA Cup clash with Barnsley feels significant in that context. If ever there was a fixture tailor-made to demonstrate trust in Ngumoha, this is it. Slot is unlikely to forget the humiliation of last season when a heavily rotated Liverpool side were dumped out by Plymouth, and he has referenced that disappointment often enough to suggest it still stings. As a result, he may opt for a stronger lineup than some expect. Even so, the Barnsley match represents a perfect compromise. It offers the chance to assert control, avoid another early exit, and still give meaningful opportunities to players who have been knocking on the door. Few fit that description better than Ngumoha. Giving him minutes would not only test Slot's faith in his development plan, but also send a clear message that talent and patience can coexist. For now, Liverpool fans are left balancing excitement with frustration. Ngumoha's ability is not in doubt, and neither, it seems, is the club's belief in his long-term future. The challenge for Slot is convincing supporters that caution today will not come at the expense of momentum tomorrow, and that one of Liverpool's brightest prospects will not be kept waiting longer than necessary. But that is all for today's video. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel for daily Liverpool content. We post all the latest Liverpool news every day, so join our fast-growing community so you never miss out. Thank you. I'll see you in the next video.